Brian, you've been hearing this for a while now. I got to come up with some new material.
Yeah. Welcome everyone to CivilWarTalk.com's live broadcast. Tonight we have with us Theodore Savas of Savas BD Publishing. Ted's program will be on publishing Civil War books, and we're very excited to have him here with us tonight. The lecture is brought to you by CivilWarTalk.com, the American Civil War Forum. And now I'd like to introduce Mike Kendra, the owner of CivilWarTalk.com. Mike.
Thanks, Laura. So Civil War Talk is an American Civil War forum. We feature discussions about battles, the people, the events from 1861 to 1865, as well as reenacting, photography, ancestry, trivia, and much more. With over 23,000 members and about 113,000 different discussions, you can always find something Civil War to talk about at CivilWarTalk.com. Joining is very easy. If you aren't already a member, we invite you to join today. Our website link is CivilWarTalk.com, and you can become a member. And if you choose, you can become a premium member too to support our website and keep it running. And the benefits of premium membership, you get advance notice about these Zoom meetings. We have some fun activities we like to give our patron members. Like sometimes we offer them we're actually getting some T-shirts and things like that. I'm gonna see if I can offer some awesome stuff for the patrons. Because I'm gonna see if I get a designer to go ahead and design some awesome designs for our patrons. But the point is, we're gonna try and make some cool perks for patrons that support the website. The speaker for tonight we got is Theodore Savas. He's from the publishing company Savas BD. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight, Ted.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We've all heard of Savas BD and Theodore Savas, and he's the managing director. He graduated from the University of Iowa College of Law in 1986 and practiced law in Silicon Valley for many years. He taught business and history classes in the college level for about 20 years. In 1990, he co-founded with David Woodbury the historical press, Savas Woodbury Publishers, later Savas Publishing. The company was sold to an East Coast publisher in 2001. Ted and the late Richard H. Beatty together founded Savas Beatty in January 2004. Ted is an author himself, having a number of published books, as well as articles in journals, magazines, and newspapers. Ted's hobbies include scuba diving, smoking good cigars, and playing bass and keyboards in the hard rock band Arminius. I hope I said that right.
You did.
He also enjoys spending time with his dogs, Kenya, and any man who loves dogs is okay in my book. Books. Savas BD has published a ton of great Civil War titles. Here are just a few of the Savas BD award winners. The War Outside My Window. It's the Civil War diary of Leroy Wiley Gresham. It's a winner of the 2018 Douglas Southall Freeman Award. The Petersburg Regiment in the Civil War is another book, a history of the 12th Virginia Infantry. It's the winner of the 2019 Unit History Army Historical Foundation Distinguished Book Award. And then there's Gettysburg's Peach Orchard, Longstreet Sickles, and the Bloody Fight for Commanding Ground. That's the Batchelder Coddington Library Literary Award for 2019. All of our speakers are providing these virtual lectures for free. So after the program is over, we'd encourage everyone to order one or all of these books that are available at savasbd.com. The link to order online will be provided again later. Let's see here. Let's see.
Thanks,
I guess we'll hand this back to Laura.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. That'd be funny if somebody ordered every book at Savas BD, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be fine. I mean, we won't turn them down.
You don't have any kind of limit on the
who wants a library?
We get some big orders sometimes. It's pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Ted, we're gonna you agreed to answer some questions tonight, and I have actually come up with quite a few questions to ask you. So I hope you're ready, and our members will be entering their questions in the chat log, and We'll take some of those at the end if that's okay with you. So you guys, as you think of questions, be sure to enter them in the chat log so that Ted can answer those in the order that they are entered in the chat log. I'm so excited to learn all about publishing tonight, and from such a giant in Civil War publishing. I'm kind of curious about something though. How many people have ever ordered a book from Savas Beatty? Raise your hand. Just raise your hand in front of the screen if you've ever ordered a book from Savas Beatty. Wow. Okay. So how's that, Ted? Most everybody here has ordered at least one book from Savas Beatty.
Yeah, that's really nice. Appreciate that.
So we're excited to hear about the changes and how publishing works. To start off, can you just tell us a little bit about your background and how did you wind up being a lawyer and then a publisher?
I have a history degree. I got my BA in American history. I have most of a master's in American and European history. And at the time, I was playing professionally on the road with a rock band in the Midwest, the bus and the touring and all that stuff. And one day I decided it was time to sort of go back and wrap up my education and stop waking up on pool tables. So I did, and I didn't want to work after I got my teaching certificate. So I decided I'd go to law school. That would keep me off the streets for 3 years. And I did well in law school, really enjoyed it. Taught in the undergrad college for a year. And it was really good. I had a chance to come out and clerk and work in Silicon Valley with a cousin who had a law firm. So I came out and started put my shingle out and started working on my own from day one. Built up my clientele, had a very successful business, started writing magazine articles early in the mornings. My wife would get up, she was a nurse, and I'd iron her smock for her at about 4:30 in the morning and get her ready. And then I couldn't go back to sleep, so I started researching and writing and started publishing articles, and that's sort of how that started. And pretty soon I met Dave Woodbury, and we started the Civil War Roundtable. David Lang, do I see David Lang on here?
Yes.
Hi, David.
Hi, how are you, Theodore?
I'm good. Thank you. It's good that you're here. And David was one of our roundtable members. We started a roundtable in my living room in March of 89. And we had 3 people, and it's still going strong today, the South Bay Civil War Roundtable. It's very nice. And Tom Rosa. Hi, how you doing, Tom? Tom is one of the big wheels in the roundtable right now, and he's done a lot to keep it going. And so so David Woodbury and I started publishing a couple of books, and they did wildly well, and they shouldn't have, because we didn't know anything about anything. And I was a litigator, and pretty soon we started getting all these manuscripts in, and people are sending us stuff, and I'm thinking, well, I'm a lawyer. I just do this as a hobby. I mean, this isn't what I want to do. And it got more successful, and pretty soon I opened another suite next door. And I had a publishing suite, and I had a legal suite, and my wife, our second child, came along, and my wife said, look, you need to decide what you're going to do when you grow up, because right now you're working 100 hours a week, cut it down to about 60. And I think I surprised everybody by selling off my law practice and going into publishing. And I miss the law sometimes, but I love publishing, because I'd do it for free if I had to, and I have for quite a while. And it's just great. And that's sort of the short story of how I got into that.
Great. Thanks, Ted. So we all know the name Savas Beatty. Obviously, almost everyone here has ordered a book from Savas Beatty. Who's the Beatty in Savas Beatty?
Beatty was Cap Beatty, Russell Beatty. He was a captain in the Korean War. Cap was a lawyer, a big shot SEC lawyer in New York City, Manhattan. And I took a manuscript he did on the Army of the Potomac and didn't get it published before I sold my company to Perseus Books Group in Boston and New York. But he and I stayed friends, and he didn't like the way they published it, and he'd call every week or two over a couple of year period. And then one day he came back. I think I was out of the business for about 3 years. I was ghostwriting books and agenting books and coaching travel baseball, and I'm loving it all. And he called me up one day and he said, Savitsky, that's what he called me, Savitsky. He said, Savitsky, because we need to get you back in the publishing business. I said, no, I'm perfectly happy doing what I'm doing. And he said, I'm in Vegas for a case, and I'm going to fly out to California, and we're going to talk. I'd never met him. We just talked on the phone endlessly. So he flew out, stayed for a couple of days. We talked about it, and decided how we could form a business, and we did. And that's how Savas Beatty started in January, I think, of 2004. And unfortunately, Cap, he was the silent partner, and Cap passed away pretty suddenly in 2013. And wasn't all that old, and it's sort of a stroke kind of a situation. So here we are.
So you kept the name.
Oh yeah.
Savas baby. Good. Well, so you're an independent publisher. I guess that's what your company's called. So how do you stay in business with scholarly and educational publishing houses? You know, they have their built-in clientele. How do you compete with that?
Long ago, I realized that if you really wanted to be in the publishing world and you weren't the Simon and Schuster's sort of thing, you had to have a niche. And you had to have, it's better to be a big fish in a small pond than a small fish in a big pond, was how I looked at it. And I knew a lot about the Civil War, and I'd written about it, and I had a big library, and I know the sources, and I knew the people in that world, and traveled a lot in that world. And so I thought this is the pond, you know, we should play in. And so we decided that we were just going to carve out a niche that way and just publish the kinds of books I wished that were out there at the time that I thought were not. Maps and well designed and, you know, better edited and on topics that were fresh and original and that sort of thing. And so I wanted to craft the kinds of books that I didn't think were being published at all or enough. And that was the goal.
Well, great. We're glad you did that. So who submits manuscripts and how?
They submit them through the website, but we also get them in the mail, even though we tell people not to mail them. We get them by email with about 35 megabyte stuff that clogs up the email. We tell them not to do that. They do that anyway. It's really interesting. I know a lot of you here are working on books or you've written books, and I can give you this bit of advice. It's very important. I don't care how big the company is, the submission guidelines, it's a filtering system. And if you can't follow the guidelines, it's going to immediately get you kicked out because it's so hard to do this thing. It's so logistically difficult. It requires teamwork. It requires a lot of close cooperation. And if that's not there, then it's just too hard. And so, but people send them in and we get a lot of them. Once in a while, we'll have a day where we don't get a submission. Usually we get 2, sometimes 3. I've had days where we've gotten 10. And, you know, we only publish, I don't know, 25 books a year or something like that. And so, plus reprints. And so when you start thinking about how many we get hundreds a year. And so it's a real weeding out process. And sometimes it's very difficult because there's a lot of great things we just can't publish.
Well, speaking of that, how do you ensure that authors that submit their manuscripts have the talent and temperament to be successful?
Well, a lot of the authors that we publish, I think there are a lot of companies, in fact, I know that there are that don't think they have what it takes to publish. And we've worked with them pretty closely because I think they're really good researchers, not really good writers, or they're really good writers and okay researchers. And so I'll send them back to the archives and have people help them and try to help develop them. A, because I want the kind of book that they're writing, and B, because I want to help them do what they want to do. And which is a lot of, as a teacher, it's very enjoyable to do that. And so, you know, we get a manuscript in and we look at the bibliography. It's the first thing I look at is the bibliography. And what's it look like? Primary sources, have they gone anywhere and actually done real research? Or are they just citing secondary books and copying other people's work? We don't want those kinds of books. So, you know, you sort of read through it and you try to find something that's well researched, but it's on a topic that a lot of people haven't really delved deeply into, or it's got a new twist. It's original, it's fresh, it's coming at something with a new angle, and that sort of thing. As far as whether they've got the temperament, part of it's following submission guidelines, and part of it is just, you know, talking to them on the phone, exchanging emails. I can't stand when I'm first starting to talk to someone and they don't bother to even put a salutation on. They just type. It's not "Dear Ted." It's not, you know, it's just they start typing, and you ask them a question and they shoot you back a quick answer like you're buddies for 30 years. That just sort of rubs me the wrong way. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the way I was raised. My mom would slap me if I'd done something like that. So, you know, the point of this is follow protocol. mean, be very formal when you're trying to submit a manuscript to publishers, and figure out what they want to do. I mean, when people know me, they know I'm a really, I'm a real relaxed guy, and I have a really good time, and I love life, and I live, I have a great life, and I have a lot of fun. But early on, you have to be professional about what you're doing, because it's a professional game. And so make sure you treat it that way until further notice, really. Because I talk to other publishers, that thing rubs them wrong, and they kick people out for not being formal enough. Typically university presses, because we talk all the time. So be careful that way.
Right. So I imagine that you get manuscripts in different states of completion. So different people have different ideas of about what a finished manuscript is.
Oh yeah.
What do you do with a manuscript when you first receive it?
We tell them specifically, do not send us a manuscript. It says it right there, right in bold. I don't want to see your manuscript. I want to see A, B, C, D, E. Then if I have an interest, I'll take the manuscript. We get manuscripts, even ones that are quote finished, and they'll come in with the dust jacket designed, and they're awful, typically, because people they aren't graphic artists by and large. Some are. I mean, some are actually pretty good, but most of them aren't. And they'll come in various stages of development, and the footnotes are sort of incomplete or just sort of a jumbled, inconsistent sort of thing. And so if it's good, if it looks like it's got potential, then, we'll send them our style guide and say, go ahead and follow the style guide and reformat it so we can really study it in the best light. Because usually I know in about 5 minutes whether it's something I think I can work with. And sometimes if it's a little outside my area, I'll send it out. I got 4 or 5 different editors that I'll just send it on to, and they'll give me their feedback. And so if I kind of like it, I want to make sure the authors put it in a form where it can be seen in its best light by someone else. And that's sort of how we weed through it.
That's awesome. So speaking of the design and the covers and all that, it seems really important to make the book attractive and beyond just the subject matter inside. Tell us a little bit about what the interior design and cover artwork, how that works.
Sure. Almost all the books I designed on the inside. I might have told this story before at a different Zoom meeting, but it's an interesting story because I think it's helpful. Probably a lot of you have experienced something like this different ways. So I'm Greek. And when you're Greek, you come from a family of restaurant owners, right? Because all Greeks are running restaurants. And that's where I get the cigars from my grandpa. So my grandpa Ted, who bought me my first Civil War book, by the way, for a dime when I was 11, it was a beat up copy of Lee's Lieutenants. That's another story for another day. And he never even went to school. And he got it at a rummage sale and handed it. I have no idea why to this day, why he would do that. And that just set me off on my path. But, he ran a restaurant, a bar, and an illegal poker lounge. And so I was 14 and I'm in there and he's doing everything. I mean, he'd be cleaning the bathrooms, he'd be flipping burgers, he'd be, and I'd ask him, I said, Grandpa, why are you doing all this? And he'd say, well, you better know how to run every aspect of your business. Because otherwise you don't know if somebody's doing a good job, somebody's doing a bad job, how much you want to pay them for it, how hard it is. I thought that was pretty good advice. And so when I started the publishing business, same thing with the law business, I know nothing about publishing. I mean, I knew zero about publishing. And so I started doing everything from scratch with Dave Woodbury. We both did together. And we learned how to draw maps. We learned how to format books. We learned how to design stuff. So I didn't like the way a lot of the books were designed. And so I decided I wanted to design the interior of the book. So I learned how to do that. So today, if you see one of our books, we have maybe, 15 different base styles. And so I'll tell production, why don't you give this one, format F, and then we'll tweak it a little bit to give it its own slightly unique characteristics. And that way, that's how the inside will look, basically like that. As far as the covers go, we have a couple of different designers. They're great designers. Mostly we use a guy in England. His name's Ian, great guy. And Ian will tell him, here are a few figures. Here are some photographs. Here's our title. And just give us some ideas. And then he'll throw back 3 or 4 quite different ideas with that mix of graphics. And then Sarah, our marketing director, and I will sit down and we'll say, which direction do we want to go? and then we'll modify it and tweak it and play with it back and forth, sometimes endlessly, until we find what we want. The War Outside My Window, somebody mentioned that they liked that book. I'm very much, thank you. And I think you showed it earlier. We went around, I think we did 26 copy designs on the cover of that book. And we went through 16 titles. And I've got most of the copy designs. I looked at them the other day and I'm thinking, oh my God, we really picked the right one because these were awful over here. And so sometimes you just have to, you have to play with it until all of a sudden it hits you. This is it right here. And so that's a long answer to how we sort of do that.
So on the War Outside My Window, how much input did Jan have any input in that decision, or did you just hit the one and then you just go, oh, that's it?
I think Jan did. I think all of our authors do. I think a couple of our authors are on here, and I see a few guys on here, and it's good to see you guys again. If you've gotten to the cover stage, you usually get to see the cover. I mean, that's what we always try to do, and we want to get the author's feedback and input, because we want the author to like the work. Neil, you're on here, aren't you, Neil? Where's Neil? Unmute yourself, Neil. I think I saw you under. There you are. How you doing? Now you're still muted, I think. There he is. So Neil's got a new book coming out, Arteries of the Rebellion, and we played with that cover quite a bit, and it's a fantastic cover. And Neil, I know you saw the cover in advance, and so we want our authors to be real happy about that.
That seems to make sense. So I've noticed that books from Savas Beatty have a lot of maps. So we've read reviews from some books that people say they don't have enough maps. And you guys are known for like actually using a ton of maps. Why is that?
Well, I had a guy just a couple of weeks ago tell me he wasn't sure he was going to buy another book from us because there are too many maps. I thought, wow, never heard that one before. I told him we could cut them out before we send the book to him, and I don't think he liked that, because I don't think he's going to order from us again. But it's interesting. When we started Civil War Regiments, which was a journal that we did quarterly for many years, and we learned how to draft our own maps. And they were a little crude back then, but the software is easier now and better. And we got good at drawing our own maps. And so we started putting a lot of maps in books. But of course, when you have to run a business, you can't do that. And so it's really important that authors, how do I explain this? 20 years ago, paying to have a map drawn was expensive. I mean, some guys were $200 a map, $220. It was a lot of money. And now you can get maps drawn. You can get a bundle price from somebody for a fraction of that, or $60 a map, or $50. It just depends. And so it's a lot less expensive. Maps sell books. Except for that one guy I was talking about. Maps sell books. And you guys are all Civil War readers. You know that, right? When you open a book up, if it's a 400 or 500 page book and there's 2 or 3 maps, you're thinking, really? Seriously? But if you see 20 or 30 maps, it makes you happy because you can follow what's going on, and it's very important. And so a lot of publishers still limit maps, and it's mind-boggling to me. And the reason is it's time-consuming to put them in. You have to download them. You have to make sure they're screened right. You have to put them in. Production has to put them in. Then they got to be on the right page. Sometimes they're 2 pages off, and it adds hours to the production time. But in the end, it's better for the customer. They're happier. It's better for the author. They're happier. And you end up with a better product. And if you're not in the business to get a better product, why are you in the business, right? And so we take as many as we can possibly use. It's the author's responsibility to produce them. Some authors don't have the money to produce a lot of maps. On occasion, we'll work out a special deal with them and do something else in the contract so they can get more maps done. But that's typically how we get those in there.
So are the maps usually in the manuscript, or do they usually just have an idea of a map, or they just tell you, I want a map of this here?
Yeah, all those ways. It's interesting. A lot of authors will copy maps out of the OR Atlas or out of out of different books, but they're the old style maps. They're busy. They don't translate right. And I think they see those in a lot of other books, but they're just page fillers because they're completely unusable. And so we always tell them up front, no, we're not using those. We have to have original design maps that look nice and are tailored to your particular manuscript. And they understand, and they, they do it.
Right. So from the time that a manuscript's submitted to being on the shelf and ready for retail, what's the timeline?
6 months to 3 years. It just depends. The book world is 2 cycles, right? There's the spring cycle, which is January to June, and there's the fall cycle, which is July to December. So if you think about it right now, we're in July, at the end of July of 2020. Can't wait for this year to end, can we? Boy, what a year. We are already done locking up the books that will be printed in June of next year. So the covers are designed. We're getting ready to start looking at, get the editors going. We've got the data in. Our distributors have that. So so we're that far ahead. Now, Chris Bryan's book's going to be in July, we're hoping. So we're going to put him at the front of the, Chris got a great book, at the front of the fall season for next year. But one of the things that dictates that is obviously the state of the manuscript. Something else is do we have a particular need for that style of book or that type of book at that time to put into the next season? And so I'll have people who will call with books done and they'll say, I need it to be out in 2 months. I need it to be out in 3 months. And I explain to them, you can't get it into Barnes and Nobles. You can't get it on Amazon. You can't get it through the distributor. You can't have it offered to the libraries unless you have all the lead time that you need to do that. You can't rush it if you want it done correctly. If you see reviews in Publishers Weekly, Library Journal, they have to have the galley 4 months in advance of the publication of the book. And so you start thinking about that. Most publishers don't work 4 months in advance of a book. I mean, and mostly we're a little late with books. Sometimes you're a month later too. So it's a tough game, and you can't rush things.
Speaking of that, the reviews before the book, goes to retail. The people that submit those reviews, are they really reading the entire book, or do any of them ever fudge a little bit?
Everybody asks me that question when I'm interviewed. And there's so many dirty secrets in this business, just like every business. All of you are in some business, and you all know dirty secrets about your business, right? Things that you just couldn't, if the outside world knew, they just could pull their hair out. Well, that's one of the dirty little secrets in the publishing world. Some readers read the books cover to cover really, really hard and leave honest, good reviews. I'm one of those reviewers. I know there are a couple guys on here who are also the same way. But there are a lot of reviewers who do it for free books. And they'll write up a review, and here's how you can tell. You can tell immediately. Read, especially if you have the book, read the review and see if it isn't almost word for word with the dust jacket copy. And then at the end, they'll tweak it a little bit. And then at the end, they'll say something like, overall, this is a great contribution to Civil War literature, and it really belongs on your bookshelf. Thank you for the book. That's really what they're doing. And so if you see those kinds of reviews, they didn't read the book. And I actually write to these guys. Sometimes I used to pick up the phone and I'd call them and I say, you didn't read the book. Oh yeah, I did. No, you didn't. And then I'd ask them questions and then they'd prove they didn't read the book. And I said, well, I don't want you reviewing our books anymore. I want an honest, real review. And it's tough. The other thing that's tough is a lot of these places get books, but they don't review them for 2 years. So you see these books a year and a half, 2 years later. Well, we've already sold through the book once or twice or whatever, and then it's in paperback and so those really don't help us. And so if they're not timely reviews, within 6 months or so, it really doesn't do anybody any good.
Right. So how does Savas help market books, or how does Savas market books, and then do your authors help with marketing? How does that work?
Yeah. We spend, people who have worked with us understand that we do, even though we're a small company, there's only, there's me, There's Donna, there's Sarah, there's Lois, there's Lisa. So there's like 6 of us in the office, and there was Renee, and Renee's not with us anymore. And then everybody else is outside the office. Everybody else is independent contractors, from distributors and editors and indexers and all, we have a production guy. And so marketing is big, 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 even though we're a small company. And if you talk to most companies I don't care what they do for a living, most companies don't spend the time to market. They produce some good products, then they rush on to the next product. Authors are also sort of guilty of that sometimes. They'll be done with one book and it'll just be going to the printer and they're telling me, okay, I'm working on my next book now. And I'm saying, no, wait. You have to sell this book first. And here's how you do it. And we help them. So we have a dedicated media specialist in Sarah Clausen. And all she does is takes author phone calls, books authors on TV and radio and Facebook and Zoom meetings and everything else. And Lisa also helps her do that a lot. We've got a Sarah Keeney, who's been with me since day one. She's our marketing director, and she oversees all the marketing. And so a real good chunk of what we do is marketing. And we market really hard, and we help the author be successful because we want the authors to be successful.
Speaking of successful Civil War books specifically, what subjects do you think sell the best?
Everybody here knows the answer to that, don't they?
Gettysburg.
There you go. I had a guy call me today, as a matter of fact, and he says, we were talking on the phone, and he says, you all put a lot of Gettysburg books out. I said, yeah. He goes, I just can't get enough of Gettysburg. And I said, well, you're not alone. And I love it. I mean, I do. The vast majority of Civil War book buyers like battle studies. They like campaign studies. They like leadership stuff. And they have their particular love. It could be Antietam, it could be Gettysburg, it could be Wilderness, but it's Eastern theater. And typically, if you have to focus down again, it's Gettysburg. And so as long as you have original good stuff, like the new Peach Orchard book we did, completely original by 2 guys who are guides who know this stuff inside and out, and they did a magnificent job. And so it's brand new, it's fresh, it's there you go. You can't go wrong doing that. Doesn't mean we don't branch out and try to do other things, but that's primarily the best.
So tell me the name of a book that you've published that or that you were looking at that you were sure was going to be successful and wasn't. And then maybe a book that you were just not too sure about, but then it turned out just being wildly successful.
I get asked that a lot too. Let me come up with the different answers. I think I answered this a week or 2 ago on another Zoom, and a few people are here with that. We did a book about 4 years ago, I think, on Chamberlain, and it's not the kind of Chamberlain book you think. It's by Dennis Rosbach, who's a doctor who helped us with the War Outside My Window book, the diagnosis of Leroy and how he was sick, which is a great story. And he found information on Chamberlain's wound and his fighting at Petersburg, and that this attack that Chamberlain made, where he was wounded and what happened, was made in the completely the wrong spot. I mean, way away. And that the Park Service was wrong. And he had this really cool detective story manuscript. And I read it and I thought, boy, I think this book could do really well. It's Chamberlain. It's a detective story. There's medical stuff. There's fighting. There's strategy. It's well written. It's well researched. We can't sell that book. We still haven't sold through the first printing. And I'm telling you, it is magnificent. The people who read it say, that is one of the best books I've read in a long time. But for some reason, the Civil War community just yawned. And so that shocked me, right? I'm disappointed in that one. What was your other question?
One that you thought would be successful that wasn't, and then one that you were sort of okay about, but it turned out to be wildly successful.
Tim Smith, who most of you know, he does Western theater stuff. In fact, we did his first book on Champion Hill. Tim came to me, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years ago with a manuscript for Grierson's Raid. And, you know, I, like everybody else, I'd seen the John Wayne movie and I knew a little bit about Grierson's Raid, but I didn't really know a lot about Grierson's Raid. And I thought, Cavalry in the East is, you know, pretty good because it's, you know, it's Jeb Stuart and people like it. And, you know, if it's Forrest, it'll probably sell pretty well. In Mississippi and the Vicksburg, I don't know. And I thought, you know, but Tim's got a good name. He's easy to work with. I like working with him on his books. And it was good. And so I thought, you know, it'll do okay. It'll do enough to where it'll make its money back, and it'll be nice to have the book. And it deserves to be done. And that book sold out. I believe it sold out 1 week after the first printing. It was gone. And we went back and printed again, and Amazon put in a gigantic order. We were shocked, and that sold the book out. And then we went back again, and I think it's just finishing its third printing. And you know, these are not wildly huge numbers, you know, but they're pretty sizable for Civil War numbers. And so it's done very well. We put it in audio. It's done well in Kindle. It's going to be in paperback soon. So I think that's a book where I thought it would sort of kind of probably be an average kind of seller. And it's been one of our best sellers in the last like 4 or 5 years.
Dennis,
and it deserves to be. It's a neat book. Yeah.
I'm surprised about Dennis's book. He's fascinating. Just his whole background and knowledge, and he's just fascinating.
Dennis is he's a great guy and a good writer.
So we are going to take some questions from the question log. Let me see if I can get those organized for you, because they've got some good ones. We've got some really good ones.
Okay.
Let's start off with, I'm a retired newspaper editor and would-be regimental history author. I've been researching a Civil War regiment for several years. The book is about 35% done. My question, when is the right time to look for a publisher? And in particular, what does Savas Beatty need to see before they consider getting involved? What is the procedure? Thanks very much, Will Kennedy. And Will's on the call, actually. I mean,
Sure.
Will's on here, actually.
Yeah, great. I will. What I would do now is a good time to think about submitting it. Once you've got most of your research done. Oh, there. I'm sorry. I've got one of my dogs.
Oh, puppy. Which puppy is that?
This is another one of my son's dogs that I've adopted. He adopts them in college, and then Dad gets them. This is Kyoto. Okay, you gotta get down.
Kyoto wants to be on the Zoom call.
Oh, she does. Yeah, Kenya's upstairs. So once you've pretty much researched done most of your research, and you're in the writing stage, now's a good time to go ahead and submit it. You got your bibliography pretty much put together. It's not a problem. It's a good time to submit it because people work so far ahead. So if somebody comes to me and says, I'm working on this book and my ETA to finish it is within a year and a half, if your ETA is pretty solid and you're very confident of that, and you can communicate that to the publisher and they want it, then you probably can get a contract. Sometimes if I've never worked with you before as an author, I'll ask you to write more, send a couple chapters. We'll see how how it looks. And then I'll just say, look, we're very interested if we're interested. And why don't you just keep me in the loop? And as you finish and as you're moving toward conclusion, why don't you just let me know, and let's just sort of see how it develops. And that way I can get a feel for how you're doing. Are you on target? Do you follow your own deadlines, that kind of thing. So if that helps. I'm going to let Kyoto outside real quick. Hold on a second.
Okay. Let's see. If you guys have any other questions, you can go ahead and enter those in the chat box. We're going to take those in the order that that they appear in the chat box. And speaking of unit histories, the publishers that publish unit histories generally, what kind of publisher are you looking for when you're looking for a unit history publisher?
Yeah, let me go back to Will just for a second. Will, there's a submission button on our website, and you're welcome to go ahead and follow the submission guidelines and send it in.
Okay.
The book world has changed so dramatically, right? It was much easier to sell unit history. I love unit histories, really good unit histories. And who doesn't love good unit histories? And they're hard to sell today. I think part of the reason is before you couldn't find much anything about any units because there was no such thing as the internet. And today, you know, that you want to learn something about, you know, pick a number, right? The 33rd Virginia. You can type in the internet and you can get some basic information and you can find some of the guys in the rosters. And so there's ancestry.com. So you can go and find your ancestor if you knew that. You know, before you used to buy the unit history. And so a lot of people don't do that anymore. So that makes it hard to sell unit histories. It doesn't mean that they're not needed because good unit histories are always needed. So your question was what publishers to go to. Here's always what you want to do if you're writing a book. Always. I don't care if it's on roses or it's a Harlequin romance. Find a book that's similar to yours. Find out who the publisher is. Then go to the publisher's website, see what their submission guidelines are, and then submit it. Because you can say, my book is similar to this book, and find one that's well reviewed and this, you know, you think is done pretty well. So you say, my book is similar to this one, and I could have just as much success, and here's how I'll do it. Just follow their guidelines because you know the company has dabbled in that pond before. What happens is I get submissions. I told you one day I got 10 submissions, right? Now 7 or 8 of those are, I've gotten pornography. I know David Lang is probably saying, send those to me, I'll read those. David, I've gotten gardening books. I get historical fiction that's way outside my area of expertise. So in other words, they're wasting our time because we clearly say, if we don't publish the kinds of book that don't submit it. And so if you really want to alienate an agent or a publisher, submit to a publisher that doesn't do the kind of work you want published. So find the right publisher and go that way. It's always the best advice at the beginning.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. So someone asked, what publishers are there that are publishing Civil War novels that's historically accurate?
The answer is not many. And, you know, we've done a couple. I'm not in the Civil War fiction game. I do a couple of them because I knew the author and I really, really, really liked the book. And I thought, you know, we could do okay with it. 6 Days in September is one of them. It's a fabulous novel. Love it. I think it's better than Killer Angels. I've even had people tell me that. I love it. Ooh, that's Shadow. Sorry. And so other than that, I mean, once in a while you get the big publishers who will publish, you know, a Civil War novel, but there aren't many publishers publishing novels.
Right. Someone said, what about the Trans-Mississippi Theater?
Yeah, I love Trans-Mississippi. We just did a book called Maelstrom, Caught in the Maelstrom about it's the Indian War, Civil War. It's a great book. We've got another book that we're working on that I can't talk about right now. It's a Trans-Mississippi book, a couple of them. The problem with the Trans-Mississippi is, you know, it's the redheaded stepchild of the Civil War, right? It's like, it's the crazy aunt in the bedroom over there. And, you know, once in a while we'll open the door and vacuum in there. But yeah, it's kind of interesting, but you know, now I don't think that way. I love all of it. But in terms of book buyers, it's a real sort of niche kind of area. And so a lot of publishers shy away from that. Now you get some really good university press stuff that comes out with some great Trans-Mississippi. I think University of Arkansas used to do some. Tennessee does some. I know Texas does some. Louisiana Press does some. But it's harder to get your book published in that area. Now, that said, if you're a gung-ho author, especially if you live out there, if you're writing on a battle that's out there or something, or you've got a good social media presence, and by the way, if you want to get published today and you don't have a social media presence, you probably won't be published today. Just saying, it's the new way to sell books today. It's very important, and it will give you a leg up on other authors. Make sure you understand social media. That'll help a lot. That'll help maybe sway that decision if it's sort of a balanced decision as to whether it should be published. but it's hard. It's hard to get books published on the Trans-Mississippi.
Another unit history question. This is from Paul Hobie. I wrote and self-published a history of local Ohio regiment, sold about 150 copies, given programs and so forth. Now I see copies available on the secondary market. Since it's primarily a local interest type book, is the market pretty much saturated, and what more could a publisher offer?
Yeah, if it's a local interest book, unless it's a local interest topic that sort of everybody knows about, it's probably saturated, but it doesn't mean you can't do well with it. If you can still go out and talk and make it interesting, make what you're writing about interesting to others who otherwise wouldn't know about it. So if you're interested in the topic and you give a talk, make it interesting. And so just because people don't know about it doesn't mean you can't get them to buy your book and read it and enjoy it. So it's really how you want to present it and do it. But if it's a local topic and it's up north, you're going to cut out probably half your audience. And so it's harder to sell. It just is.
Okay, next question. Where do you see the market going age-wise and appeal-wise? Do you see a younger generation interested in the Civil War generally, or a niche of the Civil War?
Boy, I'll tell you, I was very worried for many years, and I'm still a little worried. But the last couple of years, we've seen more younger people. Of course, when you get to be my age, everybody's a younger person. So I'm not sure that that's a good measuring stick. But we're seeing a lot more people in their 30s, some in their 20s, some in their 40s, and they're really starting to getting into the Civil War, which is really cool. And so I think a lot of it has to do with, our Emerging Civil War series, probably a lot of you are familiar with that. That's bringing in a lot of people. We're very excited about that. The roundtable movement is sort of experiencing a resurgence. And Mike Movius with Civil War Roundtable Associates is sort of linking the roundtables together, and people are using social media to build up their membership. So I'm starting to see a little resurgence. I'm starting to get a little more happy about where I think things are going. I think the study of it's gonna stay steady now, and I think it could start growing again.
Great. Novels for publishing at Savas Beatty. You guys publish novels, Civil War novels?
Yeah, no, I was saying that a little bit earlier. Other than one or two, we don't, and I'm not looking for any.
Okay.
Just because they're too hard for me to sell. I think I said this at a couple meetings ago, but just a lot of people don't know this. When you sell a novel, you're competing with Simon & Schuster because they have the novel tables, right? Random House, Penguin, and they buy the tables. So every time you walk into a bookstore and there's a table in front, the publishers have paid to put their books there. If the books are face out on the shelf, the publishers paid to put their books there. If they're stacked on an end cap, the publishers paid to put their books there. And if you notice, the vast majority of those are novels. And so when you publish a novel, unless you're going to put, it's called co-op money. So unless you're going to put, another $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 and throw that out into the bookstores and get your books on the tables and that kind of thing, you're not going to sell your novel. It's just too hard. And so that's why it's when I said about jumping into the niche at the beginning and playing in that pond is nonfiction Civil War. And so a novel is sort of up on the shore in the wood line, partially hiding. And it's just, it's too distant. And so it's too hard to do that.
Okay. Tina asked, The War Outside My Window, which is one of my favorites, was an incredible twist of a new presentation and captured my attention instantly. Do you have any other books coming along that grab like that? Reach across.
They all grab me in a certain way because otherwise I wouldn't publish them, which is kind of the neat thing about, this. The War Outside My Window is so exceptionally rare. I don't know that I will ever come across anything like that again. Yeah, we've got some neat things coming out. If you don't get our e-letter, our monthly e-letter, make sure you go to the website and sign up for it. It's a fun e-letter. There's a lot of information. We got a lot of new stuff coming out in it. And that sort of keeps you abreast of what's under contract now and what's coming out. So I would definitely make sure you sign up for that.
Okay. We've got a whole list of questions, so I'm going to try to move them a little faster if that's okay with you.
Sure, yeah, I'll give real fast answers.
Other than following guidelines and using good sources and writing a good book, what makes a book more likely to be selected for publishing?
Whether the author can sell it and whether the author says, I will go out there and do interviews and I know social media and I will work hard to sell my book. If we have authors who tell us absolutely they won't do that, and almost always that's the kiss of death.
Okay, good. Do you assist with obtaining permissions for illustrations if needed, or do you expect the author to already have done that?
That's the author's responsibility. Once in a while, we'll get involved if it helps, but that's the author's responsibility.
Kevin said, I will buy a book just for one single good map. I'm a visual learner and live geographically, so I have to have maps. Just finished Champion Hill by Tim Smith. Loved all the maps. This is
I drew those maps. I don't know if you know that. That's back in the early days of Savas Beatty, and Tim Smith wanted, I think, 6 maps. And I said, no. This book is one of the best battle studies I've ever read. And I think I drew, I don't remember, 40 maps, 50 maps in there. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That was Derek. He didn't say how many there were, but he loved the maps. Shane says, I read my first Civil War book when I was 8 or 9 years old. Was on Gettysburg, and that got me hooked. 25 years later, I love history and have 2 shelves full of Civil War books. Kevin said, I'm in the market for Champion Hill book now, and I'll look for that one, the Tim Smith book. All right. Gottfried's map books by themselves are great. Like when reading Gordon Ray's Wilderness, and Gottfried's Map of the Wilderness is a perfect companion.
Yeah, our Savas Beatty Military Atlas series, if you've never seen one, go onto our website, just look at one. I think we've got the Maps of Cavalry book that's coming out on the Gettysburg campaign. I think we have excerpts online and you can see it, but it's an oversized book, 7x10, full color, and there's a full page color map on the right page, and there's a double column text about the map on the facing left page. And it's map after map after map. The whole book is maps, orders of battle, great footnotes. And so you can use those, you can study the whole battle that way. And you can take that book on the wilderness, Maps of the Wilderness, and you can read any book on the wilderness. You can take the Maps of Gettysburg and read any book on Gettysburg. They unlock everything on that subject, which is why they're so cool.
Some people commented on overlay maps. Have you guys tried any overlay maps yet?
I don't think we have.
Let's see. We've got some more questions.
I want to say hi to all these. It's really cool.
Yeah, say hi to everybody.
Hello, everybody. It's neat. I don't. I see names of people that I've never seen their faces before, and then I see a few faces that I don't want to see, like David Lang's. But still, David, I miss you, buddy. You need to come up here again.
Okay, I found one. In the current environment, are books on Confederate figures less attractive to a publisher?
No.
That's the complete answer?
Well, I didn't know how fast you wanted me to go. Given what's happening today, I don't want to get into that because, I'll start throwing stuff. But no, because the people who are going to read, we got a new, it's coming out at the end of the year. It's probably one of my favorite books in a long time. It's Robert E. Lee, Day by Day. And I commissioned the book. I had the idea. I put the book together and I pitched it to Charlie Knight, who did our New Market book. Great. Charlie's a great researcher, great guy. and it's a 500-page daily. Where was Lee? What was he doing? What were his sources? Who was he writing to? It's that sort of thing. And it's fabulous. I mean, it's fabulous. In fact, we just finished the formatting of it today. And the people that are going to read that, the people that are going to use that for writing later on, they're going to always do it. And the people who are going to, we have another book on Lee's strategy and generalship that's coming out in a couple of years. People who like that stuff are going to read it. They're not the people that are out, knocking down statues and doing that sort of thing. So if people come to me with a good book, I don't care what it's on. If I can sell it because it contributes, I'll publish it.
Great. So John Hopkins wants to know, how's business at this point? The Gettysburg National Military Park's reopened, but lots of
Well, business is, it's challenging, right? I mean, we're going to make it, but there are a lot of people that I talk to in the publishing world and in a lot of businesses that aren't going to make it. We commissioned the Batchelder papers, the reprint, and sent that off to the printer, and it's like paying for a car, and then the virus came, and everything closed, and literally, and I'm not kidding, 99% of our accounts closed, and all the books that had gone out to all the trade bookstores were returned, and so we're talking high 5 figures in a month. They just pour back to the distributor. So we have to eat all that. And then of course, all our staff, they have to work, right? But we can't, if there's no money coming in. So we cut the staff hours down to about 70%, 75%. And the girls are really good about it. I said, look, I don't want to fire anybody. I don't want to lay anybody off. You guys decide, here's how many hours we can fit in. You guys figure out how you want to do it. And I've got the greatest staff in the world. And so they just run their hours, they organize it, and they're terrific. But the Gettysburg might be open, but they're barely ordering, right? Because they don't even know what they've got for inventory. They've returned stuff. It's right now it's a logistical nightmare. Really it is. And so now we got states that are looking to close again. And that it just makes it impossible to plan. And so, in fact, I was on a conference call with 4 other publishing companies. One was a pretty good sized publishing company just about a week ago. And we were talking about that. And there are many companies now that their fall line, they're only going to be digital. Let's say they're going to publish like 40 or 50 books. These are bigger publishers. And they're only going to print 5 or 6. The rest are going to go digital only. So you're an author, you've worked a year, 2 years, 5 years on a book, and it's only going to come out in digital. And I'd be outraged, but you understand, it's just the nature of the beast. A lot of the books we were going to publish, we've just slowed down on because we're afraid to pull the trigger and publish them because you got to pay for them and then they're going to sit in the warehouse. And then you got other books. It's a very challenging environment. So we've gone slower. We've worked really hard on social media. Tonight's a perfect example of this, Laura, and what we're doing. And I have to say our customers have been fantastic. They've stepped up. They know that small publishers, have a hard time, and they're ordering directly from us, which we very much appreciate. I want to say this, but I don't want to say it and sound like I'm pandering because I'm not. Everybody wants to save some money on something. I do too, right? And so back, my wife and I just bought a mattress, and we were shopping all over the place, and where can we save some money? And you need to do that. But when you're focusing on something that's really narrow and sort of a craft kind of product, like a craft beer down the street, right? If that guy goes out of business, you can't get that beer again. And I was telling my wife, I'm afraid to retire because I don't know who's going to publish these books. Because the answer is nobody is.
Nobody.
Almost there's nobody that's going to do the books we're doing, and so to speak of. And so I tell people, save whatever money you can, but the small businesses of stuff that you really, really, really like, order as much as you can through them, because it really makes a big difference. And we appreciate it, and it keeps us publishing books.
Great. Any interest in Civil War political history? And then I'm going to ask you 2 questions at once. And then when graphics and maps.
No, we've never really done any political history because we don't really know how to sell it.
Okay. When graphics and maps are part of the manuscript, should you sketch it freehand, even though that's not the format it's going to be used in when you submit?
No.
Don't sketch.
We'll tell you, we don't need to see maps or graphics up front, just your manuscript.
Okay. Do you see a shift from tactical studies and books about battles to more human interest stories like War Outside My Window and other aspects of the battles going forward?
One of the things that I've really enjoyed in the last 8 or 10 years is you'll take a battle study or a unit study. Where's Kennedy? Hey, Will, yeah, what you're working on. And then the last chapter of the postscript or the final part of the book will be about like the Civil War in memory, right? And if it's done well, it's very interesting. Lance Hertigan did his giant magnum opus Iron Brigade book for us a few years ago. It's a magnificent book. And at the end, he had all the veterans looking back on their lives, looking back on what they did. And it ties it all together. And so that sort of brings in some social history, a little political history, some cultural history, some family history. It's great. It's magnificent. And so there's always a market for that if it's done really well. And it's a lot of times it's not done that well. We see some of those manuscripts, it's not always done that well, but usually if it's tied to something else, like I just said, then we can sell it and it can be done well.
Okay, John Roos wants to know, with you guys doing the Batchelder papers and Ed Beer's Vicksburg trilogy, have you ever thought about tackling the official records?
We have, well, not all of them, but we've thought about reprinting the Gettysburg volumes. We get asked that fairly routinely, and we might do that. Yeah, that's a possibility. I was talking to Ed a little bit. He's hard of hearing now, and I talked to his daughter Ginny. Ed's moving to Mississippi, and to be with his daughter. And in fact, he might be there now. I think he's leaving his house in Arlington, and he might be there now. He's 97, and Ed used to say to me, about certain books he wishes were reprinted, and a lot of them are regimentals and some early battle studies and things. And so we're thinking about bringing back books that are out of print that really need another reprinting, a fresh forward, new, that kind of thing. And I was talking to Ed and his daughter and we might call it the Ed Bar's Reprint Classic Series or something in his honor. And, Ed's like, I would really like that. And so we're very happy about that. So we're thinking about doing that.
That's awesome. Okay, anything, Kevin wants to know, anything on the horizon on Georgia troops or the Atlanta campaign?
We do have some stuff on the Atlanta campaign. Dave Woodbury and I did the Atlanta campaign and Sherman's March to the Sea. It was two volumes of essays. They were well received. Well, David and I are just put up a page on the website. You can go to the website and see it. And we've got submissions in for the next volume. So we're going to start that again. We are also, it's a long way away, but David Powell, who's done our Chickamauga stuff and maps of Chickamauga, he's doing a maps of the Atlanta campaign. And so that'll be it. Yeah, that'll be great. I see a lot of the faces look up. Yeah, we're really excited about that. It's still a ways off, but yeah, so he's going to be doing that. And that'll be 2 volumes, I'm sure. 2 big color volumes. So we're very excited about that. Anything else on Atlanta? I'm finishing up my biography finally after 30 years of George Rains and the Augusta Powder Works. And the second half is the Union's failure to take it. And what a colossal blunder that was. It's horribly a blunder. And they knew about it. And when you read about what really went on, you'll go, oh my God, how did they not do that? You'll look at the Atlanta campaign and the March to the Sea completely differently. Even if you disagree with me, you'll look at it differently. So I'm coming home in the afternoon and locking myself in the library, and I've been writing about 3-4 hours a day, which is really nice because I don't get to write on my own stuff. I always work on other people's, and so that's really nice. So I'll be finishing that in a couple months.
When will that be out?
Next year.
Great. Okay, we've got a whole bunch of questions. So I think what we probably want to do is transpose these into the Civil War Talk to the forum. And then if you could go in and answer them that way, that would be great.
I'd be happy to.
There's I'm not even halfway through. There's 24 more, and I just got down to the 17. So.
Yeah, I'm looking at all these.
So let's take this last one, and then, because I'm going in order. So this is from Aaron, and he wants to know, where do you see the publishing industry heading from your perspective in this current environment where facts are often ignored and revised due to the hyper-reactionary culture?
If you're just looking at straight publishing, I think that it's going to continue to consolidate, and that's okay. We've consolidated and brought in several other companies and folded them into our smaller publishers. And so I think I think the Civil War community is a strong community. So for Civil War publishing, I think it's going to be fine. Support your Civil War publishers; they'll be fine. You'll keep getting good books. as far as the kind of the craziness that's going on, I think it's going to pass, and I think we just stay the course and keep doing what we're doing, and I think we'll be fine. We've all lived through worse times. We'll get through it.
Right. Okay, we are just about out of time, so if you don't mind, I'm gonna copy the questions and the conversation into a post on Civil War Talk, and I know your username is Military Books.
It
so
is.
Folks will know that you answered when Military Books answers their question, right?
Yeah, my wife's yelling at me to light the grill. So if you guys want to, we're gonna have some shrimp tonight. If you guys want to come over, shrimp tacos, and we're gonna grill them.
That sounds great.
Well, come on over. Yeah, I wish you guys could come over. We'd have a lot of fun. I guarantee it. So if you guys want to post your questions, make sure I have the link where they go, and I'd be more than happy to jump in. And you guys can always email me through the website. I'll be happy to take any emails you've got. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter on the Savas Beatty newsletter page, because Kenya, our pit bull, writes the column at the first column. And it's great. Let me tell you, she's a creative dog. You had her picture up there a little bit earlier. Yeah, she's a terrific dog. So I appreciate your business, and I appreciate you guys' support. And it's an evening time, and everybody's exhausted, and you guys came on and suffered through all this, and I appreciate it more than you know. I really do.
We enjoy.
Thanks for coming on, Ted.
Thank you so much for joining us and answering all our questions. And I'll take all those questions and post them into a thread on Civil War Talk. And if you'll come by and answer them, that'll be great. You guys don't leave just yet. I'm going to share my screen again so that we can finish up with a big.
See you, David.
We've got some great information for you. So we already saw this slide. And the next one I was going to mention that you guys can order lots of books at Savas Beatty. These are the best sellers when I check the website on the 27th. But Ted said that this actually changes every day. What the best sellers are change every day. So whenever you check the website, it'll show you can sort the books by what's the best seller. And of course, some of these are the Emerging Civil War series books that everybody's probably familiar with. And then I don't know what the one is farther over there, Discovering Gettysburg. So those were the ones that were top sellers when I checked the other day. And then this is what's new, of course, on Savas Beatty's website, Seceding from Secession, which we heard about the other day, Eric Wittenberg's new book. And he came on and gave us a preview. And then, of course, the Batchelder papers. Anything you want to say about that, Ted?
Batchelder papers are going to be here in about 2 weeks. They're shipped. They're on their way now. We found that out. We're waiting for the ETA, and we're very excited about that. I know everybody else is too. We are 96% sold out. So they'll be sold out before they arrive. And Eric's book, Seceding from Secession, sold out. That's a book, Laura, I should have told you I was surprised at. I knew it would be good. I didn't think it would do as well as it has. And the advanced reviews are great. And it sold out like 2 weeks after it went out in the market, and we just reprinted.
It was fascinating to me. I had no idea all the ins and outs that were involved in the formation of West Virginia. So it was interesting to hear about. I haven't ordered the book yet, but I plan to.
By the way, there's California, right, is talking about breaking up and seceding, and then Oregon's talking about it, and Washington's talking about it. We had 2 people from Washington and 1 person from Oregon, and I think 1 person from Northern California who called, and we always ask how they heard of the book or what they want the book for. And these were people who heard about it, and they see it as a constitutional primer for their own secession movements for their own states, which is kind of interesting. So
that is fascinating, isn't it? Really interesting.
it is.
Don't forget, you can become a member of Civil War Talk by going to civilwartalk.com and sign up. It's free, and you can join. And if you become a premium or supporting member, you'll receive notification of these programs early ahead of everybody else and get a chance to fill up, because this time we had over 50 people sign up, and of course the spaces are limited. So you'll get notification of those first if you become a premium or supporting member. And next week, on our program. You guys know I'm excited about this one because it's about Civil War medicine. And we have Kyle Dalton from the National Museum of Civil War Medicine. And our program time will change to 8:30 Eastern next week. So that was the time that you guys chose on the poll, Wednesday night at 8:30 or at 8:30, right, Mike? That was their choice of times, or?
Yep, that's what we picked. So that's probably when we're going to try and stick to either 8:30 or 9 o'clock. So yeah, plan to be at most meetings from now on Wednesdays, either 8:30 or 9 o'clock. We're going to settle on one of those times. I'm thinking 8:30 is probably going to be the one we settle on. So we may open the room up at 8 o'clock and maybe have like a little bit of chat, talk time before the presentation begins. But we'll have to figure all that stuff out yet. That's still up in the air. But the actual presentations probably start 8:30. Maybe a few minutes later than that after we do our, opening and introductions. But yeah, that's the plan.
Mike's at camp. Mike's camping with the boys.
Oh yeah, I can't see myself right now, but you see my
We
boys
can
have a
see
Sibley
you. We
tent
can-
set up in the
We can see
background.
your tent in the background and marshmallows on the stick.
Hey, I just want to say that I'm glad you guys are doing this every week. This is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
I appreciate that. It's awesome.
I do too. Yeah,
Fantastic.
thank you so much. And thanks for having me, Laura and Mike. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for doing it, Ted.
Oh, it's
And
my
you're-
pleasure.
You're going to
Really
find
enjoy
us
it.
some authors to be on the next ones coming up, right?
Yep.
Maybe Jan.
Yep.
We'd love to have Jan.
Great authors would love to come on.
Tina would love if Jan comes. Anybody else have requests of
Yeah, send-
authors that have published with Savas Beatty that Ted could line up for our programs?
Oh, can I, can I run something out here for everybody?
Sure.
We had a thing in our newsletter where we used to have authors who would give us a couple pictures of their libraries, talk about their libraries. We stopped doing it. We've had some people asking for it again. The last Zoom meeting, a bunch of people asked for it again. We're going to do that in the next newsletter, but we're going to start having customers and people who are Civil War book collectors send us pictures of their libraries and talk about how they collected books. We've got 5 questions we asked them. So if any of you are interested in taking 2 or 3 pictures of your library and then answering 3 or 4 fairly short questions and taking a pic, we'd love to feature you in the newsletter if you're interested.
Can you see Kevin in the bottom of, he's in the bottom of my screen. Look at his library. Show us your library, Kevin. Oh, he turned his video off. Oh, there he goes.
Yeah, I can't see them.
You can't see him?
You guys are interested at all? Just go on our website and send us an email.
Kevin, you just got called out, man.
Look at that library. Isn't that beautiful? It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I don't even know how to talk. But yeah, I've got Civil War stuff on this side. If you can see it, I don't know if I'm even pointing it at it.
Your video went off, Kevin. There you go.
Oh
Can you
my
see it now,
gosh.
Ted?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Isn't that beautiful?
I can't see it.
Talk, Kevin. Let me spotlight.
hear me?
Video. Spotlight
know if-
video. There you go. Now can you see?
Yeah, can you hear me? Everybody hear me? Nope.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we
Isn't that
just built
awesome?
this not that long ago. Civil War stuff on this side. And then just American history, world history. And then you have to excuse, we're still building stuff. So there's still some material everywhere, but yeah, just always adding to it.
Nice. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice.
So you need to send Ted a picture for his website.
Yeah,
Okay.
Kevin, if you guys are interested, just send us an email and then we'll tell you what, how we're doing it. And if we feature you in there and, with your permission, it'd be a lot of fun because customers really find it interesting to see how other people collect books and what they're doing and how it looks and how they organize. Pretty cool.
Okay. Well, Ted, we sure appreciate you coming.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me and thanks
Thank you.
everybody for being here.
It was fascinating. We enjoyed it very much. I know everybody else did. I enjoyed it very much, and I know everybody else did. So you
Very
guys
good.
It was
tune in
fabulous.
next Wednesday.
Thank you so much.
You guys be sure to tune in next Wednesday with Kyle Dalton on the National Museum of Civil War Medicine. He's going to show us some artifacts, some stretchers, and some ambulance, talk about ambulance drivers and basically medical evacuation, Civil War medical evacuation. So that should be really interesting. So be sure to join us, and we are going to end the meeting, but you guys can, so we're going to end the recording. And that way, if I can, where's the button? Did you already end it?
I can see if I can stop it for
Mike,
you.